You see, he can work smarter. He has the ability to create money. He can work harder and spend more time or think about ways to increase his business, his practice. And he'll create money that way. He's concentrating right now. He's so caught up in the trees, he's missing the forest. He's so caught up in trying to pay his bills that he's forgetting that he could go out and work a little bit harder or a little bit smarter. And what about Mrs. Ellis? Maybe she can work too.
What are some specific things that everybody could do to develop their financial worth?
Well, some of the things they should do is find ways that they can start changing their spending habits, let's say. First of all, I would suggest each and every person figure out exactly what they do spend, not down to the last dollar. It will be very surprising. You see, what happens to most people is we cash flow. That means if we're going out to a restaurant, we go out to the restaurant. We don't have to take the money out of an envelope. We're not budgeting in that sense. When you add up all these restaurant charges and all that, it's sort of overwhelming. So figure out what you do have. Number two, or what you do spend. And then number two, what I would suggest is setting up goals. Set up goals. Yogi Berra said it best, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up someplace else. So what you have to do is set up goals you can relate to. My recommendation is to set up a goal for a 5 or 6 year period of time. For example, I want to double what I have. Whatever my investments are, I want to double it. I want to be worth twice as much. And you can do that by continually taking money from the earnings column and put it into the investment column.
You have a concept that you call sleep tight money. I've heard
Yes.
it sleeping money. What does it mean, and how much money do you need to be able to sleep at night?
It varies. It really varies upon each individual. But what you need to do to sleep at night is feel you have some money. That's rule number 3, if you will. Try to find ways to increase the money that you already have. Now, everybody says, I can't do it, there's no money left, and so forth. But if your car breaks down, you have to buy a new car. Isn't it amazing? You find the money to buy that new car or to make the payments. So what I say, and I have kind of a little fun little trick, raise your rent or mortgage payment. Pretend you've raised it by as little as $5 a month or $10 a month or whatever. And that pretend raise, you put aside, at the same time you make your rent or mortgage payment, write the very next check for that increase and put it into another, I don't care if it's a checking account, put it into account and let that money continue to increase. You'll prove to yourself when you're positive you couldn't save any money that it does grow, and it will.
Is it realistic to aim to becoming a millionaire, or is that sort of self-defeating after a while?
Self-defeating. We can't relate to what a millionaire is. That's why I suggest bring the goals down to something you can relate to and something you can achieve. Something that is rewarding. By God, look at that. I had a net worth, my investments were worth $10. Now, 5, 6 years later, they're worth $20. I can do it. Fast and furious. But if you took money, if you took a piece of Kleenex and doubled it, you have 1/1000th of an inch to 2/1000th and so forth. So it sounds like so small. You know, what's $5? If you could keep doubling 50 times that piece of Kleenex, it will go to the moon and back 36 times. So what we're saying is that start small, but over a period of time, it does grow.
And what should we aspire to? A big, say on retirement, a big pile of cash that'll keep us going, or just enough monthly cash flow, wherever that comes from, in a number of different sources, to have us live happily?
Well, that's really it. The latter is it, because what people really want, financial security is different for every individual. What all we really want in this world is enough money to take care of us in our old age. And, you know, if it runs out when we run out, fine, if the timing could work out perfectly. You know, the people that have a $100 million net worth, they aren't doing it for the money anymore. They're doing it as a report card to see how, you know, how smart they can be. There's only so much money we need in our lives anyway, and that's really what we should be shooting for.
Okay, well, what Larry Krauss knows so well, and what all of us discover as we tread deeper into the money maze, is that there are many dead ends and few shortcuts to that pot of gold. One of Larry's clients is a classic case, actor-comedian Shelley Berman. Shelley's rebounded now, living the life of a country gentleman, but it's been a long and painful return. All the more so because of the heights of fame and fortune he'd reached, then lost. A king of comedy unmatched in the late 50s and 60s, his record albums sold by the millions. His income seemed to know no limit. Managers took care of it all. Then when he turned to forsake comedy for his first love, acting, he was faced with a rude awakening. He was almost $500,000 in debt with only $4,000 in assets.
I earned so much money. I was so big. But I didn't care about being big anymore. That wasn't the point. But where was the money so that I could become an actor? It was gone. Well, if I sat down and figured out where the money was, it would stand right out and hit me in the face. I spent too much. I would be sent to, I don't even know what you call that paper, showing my assets and what I owed and what I paid out and everything. So I get this great big paper with all these numbers down it. I never saw anything like it in my life. So it looked like a road map. I say, Sarah, I say to my wife, what is this? She said, I don't know. Well, it's right there in black and white. What you earned, what you spent, what you got. What you earned, and my accountant was sending me these things. But I couldn't be bothered to look at it. It was taking away the joy of the day. And after all, why should I look at numbers? I'm an artist. First of all, my wife took over. Me, I just wanted to die. And my wife, God love her, my wife took the reins. And we had almost the old envelope budget type life again that we'd had when we were kids. I tell you, there's nothing better than the envelope budget. If you don't know what an envelope budget is, learn. You put money in an envelope that says rent. You put another money in the envelope that says food. Money here that says medical. Money here, miss. That's the most important money, the one that's spelled M-I-S-C. Now that envelope, put most of it in there.
Most of it goes to miscellaneous. So Larry, what are the lessons we can all learn from Shelley Berman's apparent financial disaster and recovery?
Well, there are a couple of lessons, actually, that we should be learning. One is the fact that money is indeed a responsibility. It's not just an asset. And as part of that responsibility, you've got to spend some time thinking about it. Doesn't mean you have to, I know people that break out in hives when they look at a ruler. That's how bad numbers affect them. What you need to do is not get it so involved in that, but at least you have to know what time it is, the time of day. You don't have to understand what makes the clock tick or how the little sprockets work with each other. So, just because money might be, to some people, boring and it might be offensive, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have some responsibility dealing with it and understanding what it can do. Because ultimately, it's that money that's going to take care of you. You can't earn as much in your later years as you did in your earlier years. So it's that terrible thing that's sitting there that you think is ugly right now that's going to be taking care of you, so you'd better stay on top of it. Another thing is you should not step away from the responsibility of dealing with the people, because it's the people that can either make or break you. So don't just hand it over, because when people are working with your money, they're also working with your very lives, and that's exactly what Shelley will state over and over again. Your money and your life are one and the same. You can't split them up, as so many people would like to do. So spend more time planning your money than you do your vacation, and you'll be staying out of trouble.
There's also a real lesson, too, that you can bounce back, and a lot of people don't know
You can indeed, and Shelley has and will continue to.
Could he have bounced back without a financial planner?
I think Shelley has it within himself to bounce back without a financial planner, but I think a financial planner has helped him speed the process up.
Larry, thanks very much for being our guest today.
It's really interesting. Thank you very much. Well, coming up next, did the stock market collapse affect you? We'll give you a unique perspective on that. Also, some tips on how to sort out the good deals from the schemes and scams. So stay tuned.
You know what's thing that happened on Wall Street recently? I don't know what was going on for days. Then I asked somebody, and I found out I still don't know what's going on.
Chances are you have or have had money invested in Wall Street. You invested yourself in a company's shares, or you bought into mutual or pension funds which hired money managers to do it for you.
Since 1982, the band's been playing at stock exchanges all over the world, an ever more lively and appealing tune, drawing parades of people to cash in their chips and follow along. Higher and higher the market rose till it looked like up was the only direction it knew. They said it couldn't happen again, but it did. October 19th, 1987, Black Monday.
This is unbelievable.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted faster and further than few people had ever imagined possible.
I'm gone. Down 300 points. I think I'm going to survive. I'm going to say you went down another 300.
Before the day was done, the Dow had lost more than 500 points. The sell-off what some called a near meltdown, pushing the system to within an hour of global financial collapse.
Merck down 20.
How the banks doing? Are they still open?
Nobody's cheering this time.
A loss of the Dow in percentage terms almost double the dreaded crash of '29. This was the New York Stock Exchange when you could buy $1's worth of stock for just a dime. Brokers taking an IOU for the other 90 cents. As shares doubled and tripled in value, much like the 1980s, investors large and small jumped in. But then the bottom dropped out, and the worst was yet to come. Worthless IOUs followed by bankruptcies galore, personal and corporate. Factories closed, production lines shut down. Unemployment spread. Men took to the streets, offering themselves, their skills, for $1 a week. Suddenly, for millions of Americans, there was nothing to do, and all day to do it. When all hope for getting a job was gone, the unemployed shuffled along, feeling lucky to be given a dime, a nickel, anything. This time, Wall Street has tried to put a positive face to its calamity, even though facing a paper loss hundreds of billions of dollars greater. Tried to tell us a recession, or worse, another depression, just won't follow. Safety nets secure, conditions vastly different. But many shareholders of the 80s who marched to Wall Street's bullish beat are now walking away, badly burned, untrusting of almost any investment. And equally so, those who didn't march before couldn't afford to. How to sort out the good investment from the bad, the pressing question for all. The obvious man with answers, the Securities and Exchange Commission Director for the Western Region, Irving Einhorn, who's seen or heard of just about every way, illegal and legal, for you to lose your money.
The way investors lose money is because they believe or they listen to this person who looks credible, who sounds terrific. He's smooth, he's polished, he's professional. He'll promise them anything. What will it take for me to get you to part with your money? Well, I'm getting 10% from the bank right now. Can you give me, we'll give you 15%. If that's what it'll take, he'll make the promise. You know, and then go find them when your mail comes back, addressee unknown, and the telephone number's disconnected.
Irving, you're pouring a lot of water on a lot of people's parade here. People want to get rich quick.
You're no different than I am. I would like to make a lot more money than I'm making right now, and I've thought about it, but I've also, I guess because of where I sit, I've become very cynical over the years, and I think most of the people out there investing their money want some security. They want that yield, but if you talk to them, let's line up your investment objectives. What do you want? Do you want yield first and security last? I think most people would say, oh no, we want to make sure that that 100 or that 1,000 or that 10,000 we invest is going to be there. Then we'd like the yield after that. But when you start chasing the yield and the income and putting that above everything else, that safety factor evaporates on you. It just goes away.
Well, there are a lot of people out there who would like to know what they should be wary of.
You should be wary of strangers. That what your mother told you when you were a child doesn't change as you get older. If you don't know someone, why would you ever think about giving them your money? We all know how hard it is to save money, and believe me,